Well, I sing of Arms and the Man, which is a tribute to Aeneas, who was, of course, named after the original Aeneas. I'm sorry?
Armam Morem the Canto.
Thank you, very well. I'm outclassed. I told you I was outclassed. Okay. The founder of modern Rome, which, of course, is now helping to uplift American culture through the Hispanic Renaissance. And Aeneas is a very important figure, both here and internationally, by channeling the insights about human liberty and human dignity as presented by economists such as Milton Friedman, so that this is read by millions of people all over the Spanish-speaking world, and has created a truly invaluable resource to help move the culture back to its foundations in liberty and human dignity. So thank you, Aeneas, for the great honor of being asked to speak here on this centenary of the birth of my worthiest adversary, Milton Friedman. And I say this because even more than Lord Keynes, Professor Laureate Friedman was an arch enemy of the gold standard, of which I am considered to be one of the leading proponents, and certainly one of the most ardent ones, perhaps one of the most, not one of the best, but definitely one of the most prolific. And if it were not for the assiduous suppression of the gold standard over decades by Milton Friedman, my work would be a lot easier than it is right now. This is the one area that he was demonstrably wrong. So I am standing here much as Hayek commenting on the death of Keynes. When Keynes died, Hayek said, "He was the one truly great man I ever knew." Now, I didn't know Milton Friedman, so he was a truly great man who I never knew. But I come here to extol him as a great humanitarian. And because HACER is the sponsor of this, I just wanted to draw all of your attention to a wonderful recollection by Bret Stephens that was published in the Wall Street Journal on March 2nd, 2010, right after the great Chilean and Haitian earthquakes. The earthquake that hit Chile was 500 times stronger than the earthquake that hit Port-au-Prince. 500 times. It hit Chile with a force of 1 million atomic bombs of the size of Hiroshima. And yet, at the time, a week or so after the earthquake, Chile had incurred at that point about 700 casualties. For an earthquake that was 1/500th, which was 500 times stronger than the earthquake that had hit Haiti, that had incurred 250,000 casualties. So why this great discrepancy? For a disaster of monumental proportions, for the damage to be so modest by comparison, was due, according to Mr. Stephens' analysis, which is, in my view, irrefutable, to the work of Milton Friedman, great humanitarian. By having imported the principles of the marketplace, of the ethical marketplace, of freedom, into a regime, an autocratic regime under Pinochet, okay, who took them not because he was a particularly good man. He was a dictator, but he was desperately looking for policy, and there was a college-to-college relationship between the leading college in Chile and the University of Chicago, through which the Chicago boys had been attempting to smuggle humanitarian economic policy. And eventually, when Pinochet took over, he felt a strong need to have economic reform because the economy there, as everywhere in Latin America, was struggling, was misery. And so he had a 45-minute conversation with Milton Friedman, asked him for a list of recommendations. A month later, Milton sent him a letter, as requested, with 8 policy liberalizations, many of which Pinochet adopted, because it's like that famous phrase from Yes, Minister, this is unacceptable. Something must be done. This is something, therefore, we must do it. He adopted, perhaps not fully appreciating the brilliance of it, the Friedman free market recommendation foundations, and the economy of Chile blossomed. And it became so prosperous compared to its neighbors that it was able to not just adopt meaningful building codes, but to enforce them. And so consequently, Chile was built on a foundation of security and prosperity by virtue of the teachings of Milton Friedman. And the Chileans, thereby decades later, were able to survive this million atomic bombing equivalent from nature, in nearly unscathed. Whereas Haiti, who has not yet gotten the light and come to the free market for a far less violent earthquake, was experienced hundreds of thousands of deaths. So on this year anniversary, I don't know, do libertarians go to heaven when they die? You would know. You're a libertarian, but you're not dead.
No. I'm not dead. No.
On whatever exalted celestial level the spirit of Milton and Rose Friedman now reside. Thank you for your wonderful humanitarian contribution to the prosperity, the security, and the dignity of humanity.